Now, if you wait, all that's going to happen as you get older. Cause time is always going to pass and you're always going to move away. You are going to wait for something to happen. It's going to set you behind on the time you do have. You are going to wind up at the back of the race and you are going to wind up in last place. And that's not where you want to be. That's not even where you need to be. You need to be standing side by side with your future self. When you find yourself disappointed in life, when you find yourself coming up short in life, you can either complain about it or you can choose to learn from it. We become what we think about. Focus on what you want rather than focusing on what you don't want. So, who do you want to be? Why are you here on this planet? If you want to change, don't expect your life to stay the same. Expect it to get harder. Expect it to actually get really tough, tougher than you can even imagine right now. And this is where you can move past the boundaries that used to hold you back. You have to be prepared to take any and every opportunity that's presented to you. Alright, nothing's just going to happen. Everybody say it's all on you. It is all on you. There's other people that can educate you and help you, but you take these different experiences that you learn that stick with you. I mean, you may not remember whole lot when you were 4 years old, but there's certain memories, there's certain things you can use them to either harness you to greatness or you can use them to kind of just keep you where you are at. At the end of your feelings is possibly nothing, but at the end of your principle is a promise. And some of you are where you are, if you could be real with yourself. You have gotten yourself in some mess because of your feelings. We are losing control. And it's time for those of you in this room to take control. You've held UP your someday. Either you didn't get the right information or you got it. You didn't use it. You're not getting up early enough. I don't know what you're doing, but when you leave, all I want for you is to live your someday. No more playing after today. And here's the crazy part. All you got to do is look in the mirror. All you got to do is deal with yourself, and then we're going to get to a whole another level. You have no idea how efficient people get. It's off the charts. If we all got our act together collectively and stop making things worse, because that's another thing people do all the time. Not only do they not do what they should to make things better, they actively attempt to make things worse because they're spiteful or resentful or arrogant or deceit. All of those things all bundled together in an absolutely pathological package. If people stop really trying just to make things worse, we have no idea how much better they would get just because of that. You have to execute, that you have to perform, that you have to get the job done, especially when you don't feel like it. That's what I call test days. This is a race that you run completely alone and you are all by yourself. To this day, it is for me to become better mentally. How I look has just become a like I have thousands, hundreds of thousands of miles on this body. Running pull-ups, push-ups, swimming. Whatever you want to call it. This body is what it is now. It's from repetition. It's not from studying, hey. If you hold your plank for this long, call that bull. I don't care about it. I just do it for my mind. Right. I want to continue to harden because that's the only thing I want. That's what I want. I want to have that mind ready for life. Success is repeated many times. You can have a skill set to do a lot of things. Okay, you can train, you can read a manual, you can do all these different things, but a skill set only works if you have that mindset. Everyone talks about I got passion, I got inner drive. You know what passion, inner drive is? It's absolutely nothing unless there's a action, a relentless action that follows it. And if you have that relentless action that follows your passion, that follows that inner drive you have, then you get that end result. Other than that, you just have a bunch of emotions that mean nothing. Are you doing what the very few do on the planet today? As one of my core brain tattoos is to have the results 95% of the population do not have. You've got to commit to doing what only 5% of the population are willing to do. And what the titans do, what the virtuosos do, what the exceptionalists do, they build their days around the pursuit of difficult things. And if you do that, here's what happens. You are going to build momentum. And if you do that, each day will be a platform for growth. But even more importantly, how do you build self-respect? It's by doing difficult things. You grow in self-respect. When you say, I'm not going to coast through my day today, I'm going to do something that's going to give me a micro win so my work and my craft gets a little better. You grow in self-respect. If each day you do difficult things and make these daily optimizations, each day through the doing of micro difficulties, you build greater self-respect, and as you build Greater self-respect. You fall in love with yourself. It's a great way to build self-love. I mean, one of the tactics to remember is how do you grow self-love. You consistently make and then keep self-promises. Hardships are a part of life, and while nobody enjoys pain, they can be valuable because they present an opportunity for personal growth. I like to say that you discover how deep your self-discipline goes when you're struggling, not when everything goes well. You aren't self-disciplined because you worked hard when you were fired up to work. You're self-disciplined when you continue to work hard when the last thing you want to do is work. You aren't self-disciplined because you can't afford candy, so you don't eat it. You exhibit self-control when you deny the treats that are offered freely to you. For example, when you are at a party with a buffet selection of high-calorie snacks, you aren't self-disciplined. When you wake up early in the morning to work on your new business, you're self-disciplined when you still wake up early in the morning when it seems that your business is going nowhere. Misfortunes aren't fun to deal with, but bearing them only strengthens your ability to handle even worse circumstances in the future. In a sense, trials and tribulations are like training. You may not enjoy it, but you know that eventually it will pay off and more than recoup for any suffering you are going through at the moment. We often limit ourselves because we don't think we can achieve something today. It may be hard for you to imagine that you can live without dessert or that you can live below your means. It doesn't mean it's impossible, though. It's only your subjective opinion, not a fact of life. Moreover, thinking that you're unlikely to win means that you'll put in less effort than you could. Why would you work your fingers to the bone if you were uncertain of success? Rock climbing has made it particularly clear to me. When you approach the route thinking that it's beyond your abilities, you won't do your best. After all, why try your best if you know that you aren't going to climb it anyway? You'll most likely give up when you encounter the first obstacle, while a person thinking they can climb it will fight as hard as they can to keep climbing. In the end, the person that doesn't believe in their abilities will give up along the way, while the person that is certain of their abilities will reach the top. Periodically try things that you think are outside of your ability with a positive attitude and in the belief that you can succeed. Chances are you'll get a positive surprise and achieve something you thought was beyond your reach. Science suggests that the fleeting happiness you get from succumbing to a temptation is inferior, at least when it comes to its effect on how your genes express to the type of happiness you can draw out of a sense of purpose and meaning in life. According to the study, a person guided by a deep sense of purpose is less likely to suffer from inflammation and more likely to have a stronger immune system. While both types of happiness can generate the same positive emotions, it's those with high levels of eudaimonic well-being that benefit more. Since the results come from a study on just 80 participants, we shouldn't treat the conclusions as a broadly applicable scientific fact. However, there's definitely immense power in having a mission in your life. When all of your decisions are aligned toward a better future, even if you are suffering at times because things don't go as planned, it's hard to maintain self-discipline. You wake up fired up with vigor and a sense of purpose you'd never get if you were to prioritize hedonic well-being. Succeeding in life has always been a matter of doing that which the great majority does not do. Now, let's keep this in mind as we get into this business of goals. It isn't that I want to make an invidious comparison between the 5% and the 95%. Not at all. That's just the way it is. And if we don't recognize it, it will be to our cost. If you can tell me what you want, I can tell you how to get it. You see, the trick is not in achieving our goals, it is in establishing them. A ship would never leave a harbor if it did not have a destination. An industrial plant would never open its gates if it did not have a product or a purpose. Football would not be played without goalpost, nor would baseball without a home plate. Every business operates for a purpose. Every game has a reason. Getting back to the analogy of our ship, if you were to climb to the navigation bridge and ask the captain the name and location of his next port of call, he would tell you immediately. There's not the slightest doubt in his mind. Can you tell anyone your destination just as quickly and in one sentence? The captain of the ship knows that he can arrive at only one port at a time. He knows that it's impossible to arrive at 2. Do you know that he also knows that his destination will be invisible for fully 99% of his voyage, but he knows it's there and that he'll reach it, barring an unforeseen catastrophe, if he will just keep doing Certain things a certain way every day. One fine morning, his destination will appear on the horizon. He'll sail into port, his voyage successfully completed. When his business has been accomplished, he'll then sail to another predetermined port of call, and this will take him and his ship from one success to another for the rest of both of their lives. By understanding that he can reach only one port at a time, the owner of ship can in the short space of a very few years reach hundreds of ports. Successfully, there will be problems, lots of them. But they'll be solved, and the ship will steam its solitary course over the deep oceans of the world, devoting its life to accomplishing its mission and contributing its share to the welfare and economy of the world. Men and women who follow this sensible, obvious, and meaningful way of life will do the same, but the paradox is that most are like ships without rudders. They're subject to the whims of wind and tide, and while they hope they'll one day arrive in a rich and bustling port, you and I know that for every narrow harbor entrance, there's a 1,000 m of treacherous and rocky coastline. The chances of their just drifting into port are a th 0 to 1 against them. These are the unfortunate people who, not knowing the rules, believe that circumstance controls our lives. They believe in luck and superstition, fate, the breaks. They believe that success comes as a result of who you know, not what you know, and while they cling to their false alibis, life passes them by, for the rules of life are just, and they are checkmated without haste, but without remorse. Now, what about you, remembering that the definition of success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal? What's the ideal toward which you are working now? Today, yesterday, and tomorrow. Can you write it in one sentence? Is your goal sharply and clearly defined? I could tell you how you could be and have anything you set your mind on in 5 years. To better understand this, you must examine one of the most overlooked facts in the world. It is that every job, no matter what it may be, holds somewhere within itself the key to everything we want in life, the key to greatness. But we must look for it, and we must think, decide to become a professional at your business. You see, we can either compete or create. If we compete with all the other people in our line of work, we must be willing to accept the same rewards. If that's what we want, fine. But if we want to become professionals at what we do, then we must create. And when we begin to do this, there's no limit to that which we can achieve. Well, the simple part that most people don't understand is that every thought we think and every word we speak is creating our future. It's as though our thoughts go out into the universe and are accepted and brought back to us as experience. Now, that is a very simple thing, but most people don't get it. They don't understand it. They've never heard it before, and they think it's ridiculous. But if you can really accept the fact that every time you think a thought and every time you speak a word, you are literally painting your future, making your dinner, or whatever you want to call it, you are creating. And you're creating your own life, and this is simple. But it's not easy to accept. There are a lot of things that are beyond our control, but what you do have control over is how you react to whatever happens in your life. Stop focusing on what you do not have, and shift your consciousness to an appreciation for all you are and all that you have. Remember, what you think about is what expands. If you think about what you don't have, and what you don't have will expand. If you think about what you don't like in someone, then what you don't like in someone will expand. So when you catch a negative thought, just think to yourself, this is an old thought. I no longer choose to think that way. Then find a positive thought to substitute for it as quickly as you can. Remember, you want to feel good as much as possible. Thoughts of bitterness, resentment, blame and guilt make you feel miserable, and that is a habit you really want to release. When we say a joyful world, that means everything that you want has happened. So this is all that you're looking. So all that you need to do is commit yourself to creating, to create a peaceful, joyful and loving world, both for yourself and everybody around you. Every day in the morning, if you start your day with this simple thought in your mind that today wherever I go I will create a peaceful, loving and joyful world. If you fall down 100 times a day, what does it matter for a committed man? There is no such thing as failure. If you fall down 100 times, 100 lessons to be learned. If you commit yourself like this to creating what you really care for, now your mind gets organized. Once your mind gets organized, the way you think is the way you feel. Your emotional get organized. Once your thought and emotion is organized, your energies will get organized in the same direction. Once your thought, emotion and energies are organized, your very body will get organized. Once all these four are organized in one direction, your ability to create and manifest what you want is phenomenal. You are the creator. 95% of your life is coming from the subconscious. So all you have to do is look at your life and just look at it and say, for what I say, what comes to you that you want, and it comes to you easily. You have programs to allow that to happen. But what you struggle with, what you work hard on, what You have to put a lot of effort into. Why are you working so hard? And the answer is simple, because you have an invisible program that is sabotaging you from that point. So now all of a sudden you say, well, what do I need to change? I say, well, look at your life and tell me what you are having trouble with, because that's the direct expression of a program that's not supporting you. There are many ways to get the things that we want for ourselves in our lives, but basically, it all begins with how we choose to think. As you think, so shall you be. 7 little words that I think are perhaps the most important things that we can learn and master in our lives. This old proverb notion that I become what I think about all day long, and once you know that what you think about is what expands, you start getting real careful about what you think about. You don't allow your thoughts to be on anything that you don't want or that you wouldn't want to have manifest or show up for you in your life. Crossing that river of change, the creative process now gets exciting. Because what thoughts do you want to fire in wiring your brain? What kind of attention and intention do you want to place so that that becomes the loudest voice in your head? And if you keep practicing it, the hardware becomes a software program, and it'll say, Jai, you can do anything. Jai, you live in no time and accomplish everything. Jai, you're unlimited. You just got to hang with it. On the other side of this is greatness. Whatever you want to program in there, you get to program in there. Do we love ourselves enough to put the energy, to put the work into being honest, truthful, and factual with ourselves so that we can become the best version of ourselves possible? Ultimately, it boils down to something that's simple, and it can be as complex as we choose to make it. But as a scientist, I have to tell you, life is simple. Nature is simple, until we make it complex with symbols and words and mathematics. So, it all comes down to love. Do we love ourselves enough to put the energy into being honest with ourselves about who we are? As we learn to love ourselves and trust our higher power, we become CEO creators with the infinite spirit of a loving world. Our love for ourselves moves us from being victims to being winners. Our love for ourselves attracts wonderful experiences to us. Have you ever noticed that people who feel good about themselves are naturally attractive? They usually have a quality about them that is just wonderful. They are happy with their lives. Things come to them easily and effortlessly.